Hello, my name's Elijah Walls and today's review is Daniel Chung's new movie, Hoppers. The movie follows the teenager animal lover called Mabel, who is a lover of animals, who stumbles across an experiment that has the human mind pretty much gets transferred into a robotic animal so it can infiltrate the animal kingdom. So, using that idea, she of course infiltrates the animal kingdom using the beaver avatar, so much so they reference it in the movie, to essentially convince the mayor, being Mayor Jerry, voiced by John Hamm, to pretty much abandon the construction of the freeway. But in the meantime, when that happens, he accidentally causes an animal uprising against the humans, and all sorts of shenanigans happen. Even though it's no secret that Pixar has definitely struggled it throughout the 2020s, or in the more post-COVID and more streaming-reliant cinema, particularly that it could be dealing with films like that are not doing well in the box office, like Lightyear or Elementals or the Onward movie, or movies that have just been placed onto streaming like Soul and Luca and Turning Red, the latter being really well liked in the Pixar community, or just a lack of interest from audience, or just a concern of over-reliance on sequels, which Pixar have been continually criticised for their over-reliance on sequels. But however, this pretty much transpired on the internet into a full-blown blame game, as in people will blame things like probably new writers who don't have that much quality as their successors, or something like a lack of marketing, or just not well marketed, or the most controversial one I've heard is that John Lasseter left during the Me Too era, and the quality kind of left when he left, but at the same time he set up Skydance Animation and just made nothing but crap when he was there. So there was quite a lot of trepidation for Hoppers to come out, particularly so it was concerning that whether this movie could even be successful enough to convince Pixar to do more original stuff, like more original stories. So I gave this one a chance. Have you ever got that feeling before, like, watching a movie, like, even though the first impression of the trailer, if I remember from when I was reacting to films coming out this year, that I wasn't too impressed with the first trailer that came out of it, where it just became just full of Avatar references, and just, the humor just didn't fully land with me. But again, the more I thought about this movie before it came out, the more it appealed to me for some reason, like, maybe, of course, it's just a case of me trying to be a bit more supportive of Pixar doing more original stuff. Like, maybe I could give this a go. Or it's just a case of the early reviews show this is definitely the one more of a tribute to the Pixar's more earlier stuff, more energetic and more fast-paced, and also just a more whimsical take that isn't too overbearingly sentimental, which Pixar has gone some criticism on the more newer stuff, but again, I definitely do. I like how they definitely went in that direction, as in going back on a retread of the more earlier, albeit more iconic stuff they did, like in the 90s and 2000s. Even though I was a little bit, one of the other concerns about this movie is not just that it was going to be full of Avatar references, but the one film that also did cross my mind when watching that trailer was definitely Wild Robot from DreamWorks with Lupita Nyong'o and Pedro Pascal, and I think Will Connor was in this as well, and Stephanie Hose, and also the late Catherine O'Hara. Yeah, I felt like, okay, this is the movie about a robot that infiltrates the natural environment and the animal kingdom and tries to rebel against its creator. So I thought, like, okay, maybe this is a case of Pixar wanted that money for a little bit, but thankfully it didn't go in that direction, as in being the robot that is somewhat aware of itself, like self-aware that it's a robot in a natural environment. Well, this one is basically a robot that's perfectly disguised as, let's say, the beaver, and of course is trying to go in its own way to pretty much build back that reservoir that was pretty much left abandoned by the animals due to the construction of a bridge, which again takes up a lot of the film's plot line. And also, what I really do like about Mabel is that she doesn't realise of the consequences of her own actions, and pretty much the implications and the knock-on effects that her actions have until it's too late, which is, again, I do like the somewhat cocky person that thinks she has it all figured out and all sorted out, but the more deeper she goes into that mission, the more difficult it is for her, and so much so she gets less wriggling room for error, and pretty much dug a hole that was probably way too deep for her to climb out of. And I also do like to point out that it's from the same director who did the Cartoon Network series Three Bears, which is about three bears, being a polar bear, a panda bear, and a brown bear, trying to integrate into monster society that looks like San Francisco. Again, how that pretty much how that carries over from that to this movie is definitely very interesting to see, at least. And pretty much we're now in the era of Pixar doing more and more sequels, but what I definitely do like about this original piece of Hoppers is that it's a much more of a riskier take, like I said, although I'm a little bit concerned about the perceived lack of originality from what I remember from the trailer, but this is definitely one of the more risk-embracing movies. Like, sequels pretty much are guaranteed to be famous, guaranteed to be a box office hit, because let's face it, the first one did really well, critics like it, audience like it, so the risk is pretty much died down. But for original movies, the risk is a lot more heightened, and we have no idea if it's going to succeed with critics or audiences. But frankly, the movie is definitely a lot more aware of its risk and pretty much goes out of its way to be really energetic and just really wild and just have fun with its own concept. And pretty much its morals of like save the wildlife and save the environment is definitely done in a way which is not preachy at all, like telling the audiences or like pretty much spoon feeding the audience, or doing it in a way that looks down on the audience, where it's like, if you don't save the environment, or if you do this or if you do that, you're a terrible person. Which again, I feel like it's definitely a much more of a rewarding idea to how to consume like a moral in your movies. Like, instead of like talking down to your audience, or like trying to just plaster it all over the movie to a point. The only thing people remember the movie for is just the moral of save the environment or save the wildlife. But again, I definitely do like how it was delivered in this movie. Even supporting characters are also really good in this movie, like King George as the beaver monarch in this movie, and also there's Jerry as the greedy mayor, being voiced by John Hamm in this movie, as basically the mayor who's, we'll just say, is oblivious to the effects of the new construction of his bridge that he's making over the wildlife. And pretty much goes in for a really wild ride when Mabel pretty much enters back into his life, and albeit in the form of a beaver. And of course, they both try to figure out how they can pretty much compromise where both parties are essentially pleased. So maybe not the most politically charged thing we've seen all year. And guess what? This came. It was a year later. A year ago, we did have Eddington or something or like that. But yeah. And also there's Dr. Sam being voiced by Kathy Najimy, who's famous for stuff like Hocus Pocus and voicing Kathy from King of the Hill. Again, pretty much as the biology professor who creates the hopping technology by putting the person's subconscious into a robotic animal. Again, essentially like Avatar, but without the robots. Pretty much as she somewhat reminds me of Wallace from Wallace and Gromit as the kooky, like, mad scientist and inventor that isn't too aware of how risky her own inventions are going to be until it pretty much bites her in the ass, essentially. So I definitely do like that quality that comes out of her. And again, knowing this is a Pixar movie, they definitely do deliver the goods when it comes to animation, as the animation in this movie is, again, very beautiful and, again, very executed well, and it's definitely very seamless as well. And particularly what I do really like about this movie is definitely the character design in this movie. Particularly, like I did say earlier, that this is Daniel Chung's second film after he did the Three Bears movie. Again, I somehow recognize the designs of this movie quite a bit, like, not exactly designs like all the three bears, as in I pretty much see, like, this is from how this was designed a little bit, like the characters, like how they pretty much somehow have this, I don't know how to describe it, they kind of feel spiritually like something you could see out of that series, which is, again, I do like how directors would carry their past projects and how they carry it into their current ones or their future ones, which I'm not necessarily a trademark thing like Wes Anderson with his like symmetry and bright colours, but pretty much something that's almost DNA-like, as in it's pretty much something that's somewhat there in a more subconscious level. Like I did say earlier with Daniel Chung with the designs of the Three Bears, and how the designs look somewhat familiar. A little bit. For Hoppers, I definitely did enjoy this movie. The animation is definitely nice, the character designs are definitely really cute, the morals are definitely not of save the environment and save the animals. It's definitely done in a way where it's not preachy or going out of its way to look down on you. And also the character of Mabel is definitely very likable. The mayor, although it does come off like a jerk in some instances, is definitely someone you do understand where he's going at, but pretty much takes your own logic besides of that. And also I definitely do like how kooky and bizarre the mindset of Dr. Sam is, being Caffeine Johnny's character. Again, this movie is definitely aware of how risky it is, and I hope this does pay off in the long run. Like, maybe we could get a sequel out of this, but I'm definitely hoping that Pixar do more and more originals on the same avenue as this, where it's just proud of how wild it is, and just everyone in this movie is clearly having fun with this idea, despite despite the lack of originality in some of the story ideas, like the reference to Avatar and some of the plot threads from Wild Robot, which again maybe accounting for the film's not the most original storyline that Pixar has definitely cooked up in its original movies, but in my opinion, this is definitely one of the more better original movies they did, particularly in the post-pandemic environment that Pixar is somewhat struggling in. But I'm hoping there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them, and of course brighter days could come for them. So for Hoppers, I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on this one. So, what do you think of Hoppers? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and Letterboxd, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye!